Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for those who've been following me, thank you, and please continue to do so. Well, we got to go back to new ex-South Carolina governor and Republican presidential nominee Nikki Haley. If we all remember her, she's running for the Republican nominee against Donald Trump. Nikki Haley, just a backstory, is 52 years old, ex-governor of South Carolina, and the Republican nominee for president. She's been married to Michael Haley since 1996, and she has 2 children. And this is important because when I give you the storyline, it's going to relate back to her marriage. As you all remember, Nikki Haley made news a month or 2 ago when she was at a town hall meeting talking about South Carolina, and one of the reporters asked her about the history of the Civil War and its relationship to slavery, and Nikki Haley did not have a response. She did not remember that the Civil War had everything to do with slavery, the North and the South. And with her being the ex-governor of South Carolina, she should have known that South Carolina was part of the Confederacy and that they were known for agriculture and cheap slave labor. She should have known that as the South Carolina governor, and she fumbled the answer to the question, and it did not make her look very good. And now, and I think that is going to castigate her from any of the black vote that she is trying to aggregate herself with, especially being a woman that's from India. So she is considered an immigrant and a woman of color, even though she doesn't look it. But now there has been a big rumbling through several media reports, the Daily Mail and several other media reports, that old Nikki Haley was having steamy affairs, extramarital affairs, with a communications consultant and a married lobbyist going all the way back to 2007. There was a sworn affidavit that has been done on these 2 gentlemen, where Will Folks and Larry Marchant signed affidavits in 2010 that they had sexual relationships with Nikki Haley even before she became the South Carolina governor, and it proceeded on even after she was the governor. She denied, but the GOP stated that the affairs were brazen and out in the open. It was an open secret in South Carolina, even before she was governor and while she was governor. And she did a lot of this. Her husband, who I told you, Michael Haley, is in the military, and he was deployed quite a bit on occasion. And so evidently she must have been doing this while her husband was working for the U.S. military. How hypocritical is that? She's a politician serving the public, and then her husband is serving the people as a military guy, and she is out here having these liaisons out in the open, embarrassing not only herself, the Republican Party, and also her husband and her 2 children. And many of the GOP members knew about these affairs openly, and it was no secret in South Carolina. Supposedly, these liaisons took place in the back of her Cadillac SUV, and she had overnight stays at a Columbia, South Carolina duplex with Will Folks. She was seen out several times with her lovers at bars and at nightclubs, whether this was Will Folks or Larry Marchant. Will Folks said that he engaged in inappropriate relations and sex in her downtown Columbia, South Carolina townhouse going all the way back to 2007. And remember, this is the same lady that was not only the governor of South Carolina, but she was also on the board of Boeing and United Homes Group. United Homes Group. And it just shows you that this lady, this politician, if these allegations are true, that she was living a completely reckless and fast lifestyle. She had been married since 1996, and this was 11 years into her marriage, going back to 2007, where she was engaging in these inappropriate relationships with her communications consultant and this other gentleman. And it shows the hypocrisy, that she's a hypocrite and that her moral and ethics are substandard at best. And she can be looked at as being a liar and cannot be taken seriously. Not only was she having these affairs, but she was having these liaisons out in the open. Even Marchant divorced his wife in 2013, and his wife even mentioned Nikki Haley in the divorce records as Nikki being one of the reasons why she divorced Mr. Marchant. So these are legal documents where Nikki Haley's name is all over the place. She's involved in this. She was involved in the divorce paperwork with Larry Marchant, and then Larry Marchant and Will Folks signed sworn affidavits saying that they did have affairs with her. So they would be lying to the court and could actually get in trouble if this was not true and they were making this story up. The reason I'm bringing this up, not only was she not aware of slavery and the Civil War's relationship with South Carolina being a Confederate state, one of the original 13, we have to vet these elected officials. No different than you vet your boyfriend, a new job. Everything is at a push of a button to find research and to see what's going on. But many of us are lazy when it comes to vetting our politicians, locally and nationally. We just pick a popular name and go with it. But you don't realize that the way they legislate, the way they vote, has every effect on you locally, statewide, citywide, and of course nationally. If you're going to have somebody representing the United States of America as a whole, and you personally, I think you should properly vet these people to see where they're at morally, ethically, hypocritically, and are they living to the standards that are coming out of their mouth. Their actions have to speak louder than their words. And this is 2024. The world is in a very tumultuous state. We have wars going on in the Gaza Strip, Ukraine and Russia. We have a heavy migrant crisis influx that's taking place. We have homelessness that's a problem. We have an opioid crisis. We have tons of mental health issues. And we need to know exactly who's going to be representing us in the highest land of the office. And we need to know it before we get them in there. So there are things, I don't really care for Nikki Haley. I think she's kind of arrogant. I think she shows a elitist presence about her. She's not the brightest person in the world, in my opinion, if she doesn't even know what's the history of the Civil War. And we need to make sure that we know what's going on. We compete with our neighbors. We compete with our neighbors' kids and our kids. We're vetting people all the time, but we are the laziest people in America, in the world, on vetting and being proactive in knowing who we are putting in these elected offices. Their decision making will affect us each and every day. Look at what's going on around the world. And what if her husband was not even aware of these affairs? What is that going to do to her family? How does that make her kids feel about her? We cannot have these callous, arrogant individuals in office trying to represent us. If it's about her, we need to live in a we world and not a me world. We have too many of our politicians that are selfish, that are being bought and sold by Big Pharma, corporate America, and they're not concerned about the individual citizen each and every day. So I wanted to bring up that story about Nikki and her affairs. These have been in legal affidavits. Nikki Haley And I don't think that she's the most appropriate person to represent, whether she was Republican or Democrat, or the governor of any state, with all of this extracurricular activity that's taking place in her personal life. The way these people handle their personal life is the way they're going to handle their professional life. So take a look at it. Thank you. This has been the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive way. And let's make sure that we vet these politicians and hold them accountable for the words that come out of their mouth, and let their actions lead further and foremost before their words.